Dave's nodding. Hello, welcome to Facebook Live. Myself and Paddy Davitt here at Colney. Dave Freezer behind the camera. So if you get any comments in, hopefully Dave will shout them out just randomly while we're talking, which would be nice, Pad. But we've just had Alan Irvine in for the penultimate time this season. Norwich, of course, heading to Leeds for their last away game of the season. God, feels kind of good saying that. I've got to be honest. Once again, we'll get into the team news and the other bits and bobs. It's really, I do enjoy listening to Alan Irvine, and he seems to be opening up as we go along. I mean, his face lit up when he started talking about Leeds today.
Well, with good reason. This boyhood team, Eddie Gray was his idol, but clearly loyalties to one side tomorrow. But it seems to be an extra edge for that man, and let's hope his players feel the same as well, because it's certainly going to be an occasion tomorrow by all accounts. 37,000 sellout. It's really win or bust, I think, for them in terms of their playoff ambitions. So, I don't think it's an end-of-season rubber from Norwich's point of view on many levels. So, looking forward to it, yeah. And as you say, I mean, he's buoyant, as he should be. 3 wins out of the last 4. Clearly, there's a sense of renewal around the camp. Lads like Pritchard have grabbed their chance. Maddison's had a taste of it, Josh Murphy. So, I think they can travel and hopefully, given the travails away from home this season, one final road trip can bring some positive news. We had it at Preston. Be lovely to bounce into next season with another positive memory on the road, wouldn't it?
Cool, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it just? We wouldn't know what to do with ourselves, probably, I think. A couple of interesting points, I thought, in terms of talking about the threats that Leeds have got, basing a lot of it around Chris Wood, scores a lot of his goals in the middle of the penalty area. It's something that every side in the Championship will have been well aware of, yet unable to stop. Little bit worried that Norwich's record in the penalty box and defensive-wise has been pretty atrocious, especially away from home this season. Again, it was interesting hearing Alan kind of open up on the work they've done this week, that they're trying to drill it into them every day, that defensive work. I mean, I dread to think if they haven't been doing defensive work every day, because that would maybe explain a lot. But Chris Wood is going to be a major obstacle next season, on Saturday, clearly.
I mean, he scored down here, albeit that was with his feet near post, as I recall. And I think he scored. Yeah, he did. He scored in the League Cup tie up there as well. And sadly, I think the likes of Ryan Bennett were playing that day as well, and Russell Martin certainly in the home game. So, you can do as much prep as you want on the training fields here behind us, but it's really, can you produce when it matters most? And they haven't on enough occasions away from home, particularly. And you would have to fear that they'll be found wanting again, I'm afraid, because Chris Wood is 28 goals in 46 games. It's a phenomenal record he's got this season. He's absolutely in the purple patch of his career, because I very much doubt, a little bit like Daryl Murphy with Ipswich 2 or 3 seasons ago. I don't think he's going to match this sort of ratio moving forward. So he's at the peak of his powers, and Norwich defensively will have to be far better than they have been more often than not away from home. I mean, it's good. Clearly, why wouldn't they be preparing to try and nullify their main threats? As much as we're talking about Wood, clearly, if he does operate between the width of the post, as Alan Irvine said, he's only going to be as good as the service. So for me, it's more focusing maybe away from the centre-back areas. They, of course, need to do their job and keep close watch on him, but it'll be wide areas and cutting out the supply lines for me. I think that'll be the key to whether Norwich can subdue them enough, because we all know going forward, the stats underline it, Norwich can create and score goals. So if they can do the other side of the job, which they haven't done this season too often away from home, then Leeds seem to be a team going backwards, so I think there could be something for them there,
Yeah, especially in terms of the fullbacks as well. I think Alan was going on about how well they get forward. I think we saw a bit of that at Carrow Road as well. And it makes you wonder if Leeds get a little bit desperate, that might play into Norwich's hands. That they are going to have to go for the win. They need the win to keep their playoff hopes alive. Should give Norwich the time and space to turn them around the other way, you like to think. And focuses around Alex Pritchard, I guess, as well, but Josh Murphy too. They're in decent form.
They are. Yeah, I mean, certainly counter-attacking wise, we saw glimpses of that at Preston. That if teams want to come onto them, then they can hurt them going the other way. In fact, I recall that the first 2 goals was literally counter-attacks, turnovers at Preston on Easter Monday. But as I say, can they withstand, which will be an onslaught at times, particularly early on? And Alan Irvine made the point, don't give them any encouragement, don't fall behind, because 37,000 up there, the majority of them have come in to see Leeds try and get back in the playoff picture. If Norwich aren't mentally strong enough, show enough character and fold too easily as they have done, I'm thinking the last time they went to Yorkshire with Hillsborough, if we get a Hillsborough performance, then there'll be more post-mortems, I'm afraid. And it's just hard, as much as Alan has seemingly had a positive effect, it's hard to get past what we've seen too often over the entirety, and it's the same squad of players. You know, okay, the management might have changed, but it's still that same squad of players with the same vulnerabilities. So it's hard to feel that they will be able to keep them quiet, but you never know. As I say, I mean, they've certainly shown glimpses that they can do it, but I think they're going to be really under the cosh at times tomorrow. And can they respond? Can they soak up the pressure? And then, as you rightly say, with lads like Pritchard, Oliveira if he plays, Murphy's in wide areas, they've certainly got the artillery to hurt them going the other way. Yeah,
spot on. Tim Closer back in the squad. Wes Hoolahan has a hip injury though, so he'll miss out. Michael McGovern's not travelling, I think on compassionate grounds. Wes will hopefully be back for the QPR game. I mean, you talk about players may now be out for the rest of the season. It's only two games, isn't it? So yeah. We'll have to see if he's fit. I mean, will Tim feature, do you think, or is it going to be Ryan and Russ in the middle?
It's an interesting debate, yeah. I mean, you know, given they nullified Glenn Murray against Brighton, I think he'd probably go Bennett and Martin, to be honest, and Preston, albeit they, you know, at times they were a little bit vulnerable, certainly when Preston got back into it in the second half. But I think looking at Closer, the reality is he's been very vulnerable to that type of threat. You know, I'll reference again Hillsborough. Jordan Rhodes absolutely beasted him in the air that day. Physically, he struggles with that type of, you know, aggressive, in-your-face centre-forward. So I would be very, very surprised if Closer's brought back into the 11 in place of a Bennett or a Martin, yeah.
And as we've mentioned, it's going to be a full Elland Road, which, as Alan said, it can work in the favour of the away team as much as the home team at times, can't it? It'll be fascinating to know how they deal with that pressure, because their run recently has been shocking. I guess in a way we thought this season would peter out, but it is going to be a really interesting occasion. Maybe not the occasion we all wanted at Elland Road, but for those travelling fans and for us, it'll be fascinating to see how it pans out.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, as I say, there's no sense, because of what is at stake for Leeds, that it's going to be a get the beach ball out and the deck chairs. I don't think we're in store for that at all. That crowd will demand a performance, particularly given they have seemingly gone on a downward spiral. So I think they will certainly be up for it, because it is last chance saloon, without lapsing into cliche. They don't get a win tomorrow, they'll be too far behind, and it probably, in all probability, would be over for them at final whistle tomorrow in terms of the playoffs. So that's going to, I think, induce a sense of desperation in their performance. And if Norwich don't match it, they'll get rolled over. And we've seen it too often this season. So, you know, it's all there for them. They know what's coming. Can they deal with it?
We've been here before. I'm sure a few Norwich fans will like to rub it in Leeds' faces if it doesn't happen on Saturday, of course. So one other thing, just lastly, I wanted to touch on. Interesting, Alan, talking about the size of the turnover needed in the summer and how he basically said it's not going to happen this window. It's going to take a lot of time. It's a really hard thing to do, especially with the players who are still contracted to the club. It's something that we've all discussed, but clearly Stuart Webber has made what he wants to do known as well. I think it's interesting that Alan's kind of not gone against it, but you know, he's made the point in a different way, I suppose, that it's going to take longer.
Well, to be fair to Webber, I mean, he's talking tough in the sense of what needs to change. But I think he's also preached that a bit of patience is required, and it won't happen in this window. I think that would be very naive for anybody to think that you can turn over 12 to 15 players who are outside of the Lafferty, that Michael Turner, the Seb Bassong contractual situations, which is effectively the power resides totally with the club on those ones. They either offer them a new deal, or the ones who have options, Ruddy, Declan Rudd, those sort of characters, they don't take up the options. So there will be a seam of players who will be departing, and that's inevitable. But as Alan then referenced, it's the lads who are here on longer term contracts, very lucrative longer term contracts, who aren't going to be going anywhere until they can match those type of deals elsewhere. Now, if they, in Stuart Webber's opinion, aren't part of the new way forward for whatever reason, then how do you move those characters on? That's where it's going to get very tricky, and certainly for me, it's going to be on this window. I think there will be a lot of change this summer, but by no means when they kick off in August will that be the finished article. No way. It's going to be 2 or 3 more windows, I think, before we see a Stuart Webber template in its entirety.
We'll see. It'll be fun finding it all out. Anyway, absolutely. Dave, how are your arms?
It's starting to ache a little.
Starting to ache a little. Okay, well, we'll wrap it up. Prediction? Do you want to shout a prediction?
I'm going to go 2-1 Leeds.
2-1 Leeds.
Sorry.
Pad?
Draw, mate. 1-1.
Draw. I just think Chris Wood's going to score a couple of goals and that'll be that. But we will see how it all pans out. Don't forget pinken.com for all the preview, build-up, everything you can need. We'll have the live coverage during the game, videos afterwards. Check out the Facebook pages too, of course, as well. But thanks, Pad. Thanks, Dave. Sterling work. And we'll see you up at Elland Road. Until then, Dave's going to sign off. Are we going to wave until you do that? Are we off?